to be fair, to Davids and Karen, they've always been very supportive of the academy. I have to say that. Anderson, another one, big money, and you don't know what you're going to get with him. You just can't rely on him. And purely from a fan's point of view, and from my point of view, looking at it from the outside, it's disappointing to sell another young player. I was a bit surprised by Mark's comments, I have to say. He may have felt that, but to put it in the public domain, I thought was a surprise. And that's a big problem. We don't like scoring, and we concede goals. We're rarely going to have a 0-0. It's defenders and defending that we're not doing very well at the moment. So we need to address that before we can get any points on the board. To be honest, I think we need 3 defenders. I think we need 2 centre-backs and a left-back. I think we get away with right-back, in my opinion. And that's no disrespect for the guys that are there. I'm sure the money will be invested in the team. I've got no reason to suggest or doubt that they won't reinvest that money. I'm 100% sure they will, if the right people are available. And that's the key. I think the owners are genuinely West Ham people. I think they want the club to do well. There's no question about that. They want the club to do well. And they're trying their damnedest to get, the right players and which will transfer to results on the pitch. I don't see where the advantage would be, to be honest, unless they were super rich billionaires that were going to come in and throw money at it like a hobby, if you like. They get criticised for the move to the London Stadium. I think it was a difficult thing not to take up, to be honest. It was there. I think the only criticism I would have, it isn't custom made as a football stadium. Frank is who he is, dedicated, intelligent, got a real desire for the game. And I think he'll take that into management.
You can probably count on the fingers of one hand those club employees who have spent around half a century in gainful employment at West Ham United Football Club. People like former goalkeeper Ernie Gregory and legendary scout Wally St Pierre. So it is that I'm absolutely delighted to be joined this afternoon by one such former employee who falls into that category and sits comfortably alongside such legendary and luminary figures. Today's guest on KUMB joined West Ham as a young player in the 1960s after being spotted playing locally and, following a career-ending injury, moved into the world of coaching in the early 1970s. He was employed by West Ham in that capacity between 1973 and 2014, a period during which he became one of the world's most renowned academy coaches. In 2014, he moved upstairs into an ambassadorial role for the club, where he spent a further 2 years before finally parting company with West Ham United. But during his time as academy director, he oversaw the development of the club's most vaunted youngsters, players such as Rio Ferdinand, Joe Cole and Glenn Johnson and Jack Collison, and as such earned the club millions of pounds in the transfer market. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show a bona fide West Ham United legend in the shape of Mr. Tony Carr. Tony, it's been a while since we last sat down together for a chat.
Yeah. It's certainly what it certainly is. It's thanks for that introduction. It sounds very good from my point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the legacy you've left behind at the club, really. As I said, there is only a handful of figures that have been at the club that long and made such an impression as yourself. So I suppose congratulations on enjoying such a successful career, really. I should begin, I suppose, by wishing you a belated happy birthday. Because I'm sure, I don't know if you want me to share this or not, but we know you turned 70 a week or so ago.
That's right,
I just really wanted to ask you if you're feeling your age, Tony, or sort of do you still see a bunch of kids playing football in the park, for example, and sort of think, I could take you all on still?
I don't think I could take them all on still, but certainly it's in your blood, the fact that I'd worked for so many years, at the club, doing basically youth development, progressing young youth players. So that never leaves you, and I've always got an interest in what's going on at youth level. And obviously I watched the results of the club and talked to Kevin Keane now and again, and Stevie Potts, who are ex-youth team players of mine. Keane is with the 18s and Kev's with the under-23s. And so I take an interest in that respect. Less first team because, not because of any other reason other than the fact that I really wasn't working with the first team, although West Ham is my club. I supported them as a kid. I was born in Bow, which was just up the road to sort of Stratford now. I mean, basically where the stadium is was a stone's throw from where I was born, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I've long association with the club and still anchor after it, but obviously time does pass on. And on that, I mean, Peter Grotier, an ex-West Ham goalkeeper, who played over 50 games for the club, and Patsy Holland, who played many, many times for the club, FA Cup winner in '75. And we were all in the same youth team. We were all 70 together.
Yeah.
Patsy was 17 last week, and we all went out to dinner this weekend and reminisced old times. So that was nice.
I bet that would have been a wonderful conversation to be a fly on the wall for. Patsy, of course, when I was a kid, emerging as a West Ham fan, Patsy was very much part of that team in the mid-70s that did so well under John Lyle, and of course Ron, I suppose, in the background upstairs. But as I mentioned earlier, last time we sat down for an interview, you were actually preparing for your testimonial in 2010.
Yeah. Where's that time gone?
What a night that was.
Yeah, great night. And I think nearly 14,000 fans turned up, which are eternally grateful for those fans that did turn up. Made it a great night, really nostalgic night. The biggest problem I had was fitting everybody on the pitch with all the players that wanted to come back and play. It's unbelievable. I was overwhelmed with goodwill from all the ex-players that had passed through me, and basically it was Frank Lampard's idea that we get all the next youth team, Frank Jr. After speaking to Frank Senior, and that's how it was born, really, a year or so before. And I was overwhelmed with the support of the players that wanted to come back and play, and obviously eternally grateful for the fans that turned up for me.
Yeah, it was a fantastic night, and of course, it wasn't just former players that took part. I mean, we had I remember Franco Zola coming on at some point, just looking absolutely astounding. He was manager at the time, wasn't he? I think. Of
course, and then obviously I asked Paolo Di Canio would he come back and play. I just thought it might put a few more bums on the seats, as you do at a testimonial. Yeah. And he was really good, Paolo. He was excellent. He was living in Rome at the time, and he came over and played. And he didn't want. I said I'd pay his expense. He didn't want anything. He didn't want a bean. Paid all his own expenses. Wow. He just wanted to come back and play. It was. And he said to me, and I don't know if I've got time to tell the story. He said to me, I'll try and do an Italian accent, but I can't. I'll play half a game, he says. I will play half a game. All right, Paolo, just go out for 10 minutes. That'll do. So out he goes. We come in at half time. And, okay, Paolo, you're coming off. I mean, no. He said, I want 10 more minutes. He said, I want the crowd's adulation when I leave the pitch. And that was Paolo, all over the showman.
He scored, didn't he, Tony? I think, didn't he?
I think he scored, and then I think he come off my team, the academy team, and come back on in the West Ham kit and play with Franco for the West Ham team. So no,
imagine being up against those two in their pomp. That would have been something else, wouldn't it? Di Canio and Zola, but an absolutely brilliant night, and I don't think it's ever been repeated, anything like that. Or maybe for Mark's testimonial, perhaps. Mark Nobles a few years ago, but an incredible night anyway. 4 years after that, of course, you were moved upstairs and became a club ambassador. But how different a role was that for you?
It was very difficult. I still had about 15 months left on my contract anyway. Yeah. And Karen wanted to make a change. That was her prerogative, and that was the club's prerogative. At the end of the day, for all the time I've been there, I was only an employee. Mm-hmm. So they deemed that they needed a fresh look and someone else to come in and sort of shake it up a little bit. And we hadn't produced a great number of players the last couple of years I was in charge, there was one or two reasons for that, but it was, it goes like that. It goes in cycles like that. You have golden periods and it dips. So she said to me, but we'd like you to stay on and become an ambassador for the academy. And so I thought about it, and I was disappointed, obviously, because it was my life. And I thought, well, it's still an association with the club. And I spoke to Terry Wesley, who was taken over from me. I said, look, Karen wants me to stay. If you don't want me around, I'll understand that. If I'm going to be a shadow on your shoulder,
Sure.
and you don't want to be looking over your shoulder at me, I understand that. He went, no, I want you. I really want to lean on your experience and your knowledge. So I said, fine, I'll be here to help you.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I've never had a cross word with Terry, not at all. And that's how it panned out. I was doing bits and pieces with the academy, watching games, going to some of the games, talking to the younger coaches and trying to help them. And because there was a lot of young coaches, and I think there still is at the club, where the EPPP kicked in, the Elite Player Performance Plan, you had to employ, almost double your coach size. So a lot of the coaches you got, because all the clubs were very young and inexperienced. So they needed, I felt, an older head just to guide them and help them and, if you like, show them the West Ham way, really.
Sure.
And that's how I felt my role was. But it only lasted 2 years, and they didn't think it was working, and they said, no, it's not really working. And as we see it from the board's point of view, we don't see it as a full-time job, and we'll give you 1 day a week, basically, and or a redundancy. I just got the feeling they didn't want me to stay, so I said, okay, give me a redundancy. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I remember at the time there was a statement by the club where there was a bit of a furore following your departure because obviously to the supporters you were part and parcel of the club. You were what you'd done for the club was recognised by the entire fan base, and I think they said that you were offered new terms to continue your ambassadorial role on a part-time basis, but you declined the opportunity. So I guess that comes back to what you're saying there about what they didn't say is that it was 1 day a week, though.
Yeah, but having said, if they'd have said to me, "There's 2 days a week and you can go to a game on a Saturday," I would have loved that. Right. That would have done me right. That would have done me down to the ground. That's basically what happened. But I'm not portion and blame to anybody. It's water under the bridge. I'm over it now. And you move on. It's just one of those things.
You said at the time, Tony, didn't you, that you felt, I think it was the Telegraph you spoke to, and you said you felt you'd been mistreated and that you'd waited in limbo. I think it was for about a month for the club to come back to you. But, you found out by letter that they were, going to offer you redundancy. And of course, there was a little bit more. There was more things going on. I mean, the club also came out in the media, didn't they? Social media, and kind of revealed how much you had earned, which I think we all felt was a little bit.
I thought that was a bit below the belt, I have to say, to be honest, because the figures weren't true anyway.
Yeah.
No way were they true. I just thought that that they was just a bit. I just thought that was a bit of spite, but there you go.
Unnecessary, really.
You move on. Yeah.
Yeah. Just going back to something you said about players not coming through the academy. I mean, it would have been really difficult to replicate, I think, what you did with Harry Redknapp's assistants in the late 1990s. That glut of players that come through. I don't think it's ever been matched, perhaps, by Manchester United in the early 1990s with the Skulls and the Giggs and players like that. But you still had players like Freddie Sears, Zavon Hines, Junior Stanislas, Jack Collison, still came through, still made the club a few bob. So I don't know if you want to answer that, but you did mention there was a couple of reasons for, that reduction. I mean, would that have anything to do with the fact that the club were less inclined to put money into the academy?
I don't think it was that. I mean, to be fair, to Davids and Karen, they've always been very supportive of the academy. I have to say that. I was disappointed with the way my time ended, and that was it, the way it was done. Other than that, I've got no qualms about that.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, let's move on then. I mean, last year, you gave another interview, I think, with the Telegraph, where you said that, you'd like to rebuild any bridges if there were any that had been broken, and your phone number is still the same, and, you'd like to go back and help the club and be of some value if you possibly could. Did that phone call ever come, or are you still kind of waiting for that?
No, it never really came. I mean, Danny Francis, who works for the media department, he rang me a couple of times, and I was invited back when they rejigged and renewed Chapel Heath, and they opened that with all singing, all dancing, a new building, and that was nice. So they invited me back to that, and Karen was there, and the two Davids, and we all acknowledged each other. There was no hard feelings in that respect. So there wasn't any coldness there, and I spoke to Jack Sullivan there at the time as well, because Jack was with the women's team, and they just got to the semi-final of the FA Cup, the Women's FA Cup, and I wished him all the best in that. And they eventually did get to Wembley, which was great. But in their first full season, So no, that was the only thing that really they've invited me back to was the reopening of Chadwell Heath base. But I've been back for a cup of tea with the seniors when Davy Moyes first took over the first time with PSC. Stuart Pearce rang me up and said, "Come over and have a cup of tea," and I went over and had a cup of tea at the training ground. So there's bits like that, and it's and West Ham is still my club and always will be. But no, there's been no official invitation to come to a game or anything like that. No.
Okay. Are you still involved in coaching? I mean, what are you doing these days?
I'm not really involved with on the grass coaching, but what my role is, I'm a consultant for the Premier League on their courses. I'm a sort of consultant and coaching advisor for the Premier League, which is part-time. It's a bit ad hoc, but it just keeps me a little bit involved, and I visit clubs, and we have seminars up and down the country which I attend and so on. Obviously, with the COVID and the lockdown, there's not been a lot of that in the last 6 months. But sure. They're the little bits that I'm doing, which I enjoy, I do enjoy. And I watch West Ham when I can. My brother-in-law, my wife's brother, has got season tickets and occasionally invites me along to one of the games, and we sit behind one of the goals at one of the ends to the left of the dugout when they come out the tunnel. So I'll sit up behind the goal now and again to watch some of the games. But some of it's been good, some of it's been not so good. It's been a bit up and down, a bit like West Ham, really. Never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, it's good, I guess, to learn that you're still, working in some sort of, at least working in football, and able to impart that incredible knowledge that you must have amassed over the years to other people. But I mean, just on the matches alone, I mean, I know you're not alone in this, because I think this started with Yvonne Lyle and Murray, her son, back in 2010 when they took the season tickets away. And I think most of us fans would find it quite incredible that someone who's given so much to the club would still have to pay for their own tickets. But I mean, that's another matter entirely. We don't want to go down that road. But one player that you did help bring through before you moved upstairs into that ambassadorial role was a young lad called Grady Diangana.
Yeah, young Grady,
Yeah, I mean, he was 11, 12 when he first joined the club?
Yeah, he might have been a bit young, might have been about 10, I think, very young, and always very talented, always a bit of a dribbler, left footer, always, excited and had a little dribble. At times he dribbled and ended up back in the same place he started in. But that's learning, isn't it? That's learning about being direct and being, positive and etc. And his biggest thing that I always was on to him about was his finishing in his final ball. He'd get in great positions, but he'd be a bit rash with his final pass, or he'd be in a good scoring position, but didn't hit the target as often as he should. So I always felt he could make more goals and score more goals. And I was really pleased that he went to West Brom last year and in a promotion-winning team, scored a few goals, and I think there was quite a number of assists that which I was really pleased to see and hear, because that was something that was a little bit lacking in his game. But he's certainly matured now, and obviously Slavin must have thought so, because he's paid the reported figure of about £18 million for him, which is a fantastic deal for the club, although disappointing again with having to sell an up-and-coming young player. I've seen it through the years, haven't I? Even from way back, Tony Carr, even Paul Allen, all them years ago when we sold him to Tottenham, and then Ince to Man United, and Stuart Slater to Celtic, and so on and so on and so on, and then with Rio and Frank and Joe and Glenn and Michael as well. Michael Carrick. It's it's a disappointment. You said the golden years were in the 90s. The 80s weren't bad either. We had Paul Ince, first black captain of England, very proud of that fact. Then we had Potsy, Stuart Slater. There was a Ray Houghton amongst that little squad.
The one that got away, I suppose.
The one that got away, one that John let go. Probably biggest mistake John ever made. But there you go. I think he had a young Alan Dickens coming through and thought Ray's chances might be limited, and he let him go, and that was typical of John, who wanted to see a player get on, but financially it was a big mistake.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because I guess I've got to ask you, have you got any idea how much money the club have earned from the sale of players that come through your academy?
I've never tried it out. I haven't got a clue. That's the God's honest truth.
It's an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
I think that's undoubtable. And interestingly, Grady, we believe went for around 18 million,
Yeah,
which
that
of
was a
course would have been
reported
the figure
figure,
that we got for Rio all those
Yeah.
years ago, which I think was
Yeah.
the record sale. You've sort of spoken about all those players that the club have sold, and I think for the fans, it was just a case of here we go again.
Yeah.
That was.
Well, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. Obviously, I don't know what the ins and outs were. I don't really know. One, it is a good figure, and I suppose Grady being an attacking player, wide player, and the priority, obviously, for West Ham at the moment is defenders, because we just can't keep a clean sheet.
Yeah.
And obviously, we needed a cash intake to buy that defender or defenders that we need. And the players perhaps we want to sell that report. I'm only surmising this from the press. I don't know. I've got no inside knowledge.
Sure.
The Lanzinis and the players that have really been a bit in and out, have cost a lot of money, and they've tried to sell. They can't sell, so there's been no takers for them. Anderson, another one, big money, and you don't know what you're going to get with him. You just can't rely on him. And so I suppose, we can sell our young player as much as we don't want to do it, and it might fund, the team in another area. And I hope that is the case. But no, purely from a fan's point of view, and from my point of view, looking at it from the outside, it's disappointing to sell another young player.
Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't only the fans and yourself, obviously, that was disappointed by the sale of Grady. I mean, we saw within a day or two that extraordinary tweet from Mark Noble, where he came out and said he was sad and unhappy and disappointed with the sale. And of course, that was backed up by a string of, his teammates. Jack Wilshere, for example, came out and said something along the lines of, good luck. You're going to a club where you're going to be appreciated. I know you're not at the club every day, but you still sort of have your links there. I mean, what's your impression, Tony? Do you get the impression that there's a lot of unhappiness behind the scenes, and perhaps that's sort of spilling out a little bit? We saw the team struggle against Newcastle last weekend.
And, obviously I watched the game on TV, but I was a bit surprised by Mark's comments, I have to say. He may have felt that, but to put it in the public domain, I thought was a surprise. Whether he should or whether he shouldn't, who knows? That's I'm sure that the manager and even the board would have been happy with that. So it don't create a great environment. So whether there's unrest there, to be honest, I don't know. Okay. I really don't know. Okay. I know PSC
wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. With
no, I wouldn't be surprised if there's little rumblings in the background. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
They had a great end to the season. They finished the season really, really well. So you thought, well, maybe that's a good sign for us to carry it on and get some points on the board early doors. But no, I don't know what's going on. The only thing that changes all that is a winning team, a good performance and points on the board. That changes the whole mood. The more you struggle and lose, and that just adds to all the possible discontent that might be around the place. I don't know.
And of course, if you look at our fixtures, our next 6 fixtures, we play Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, Tottenham. It's a horrendous run of fixtures.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to. But I suppose, let's be positive. West Ham have always had that capacity to pull the rabbit out of the hat and pull out a surprise against the big team. So I guess let's hope that we're going to get 1 or 2 of those in the next few weeks.
Well, let's hope so. As you say, we do tend to, in the main, raise our game for the big boys. And that's no disrespect to the Newcastles of this world, who I thought played well. To be honest, I thought Newcastle played well. Mm-hmm. So, and on the day they deserved it. Maybe there was 1 or 2 half chances that went our way, but we never really looked like scoring. and that's a big problem. We don't like scoring, and we concede goals. We're rarely going to have a 0-0.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, I think in pre-season we didn't keep a clean sheet. And obviously conceding 5 against Bournemouth was pretty horrendous, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course. No, it's you haven't got to be an expert or have any inside knowledge to know that it's defenders and defending that we're not doing very well at the moment. So we need to address that before we can get any points on the board.
Yeah, well, I think the club have said, haven't they, that the reason that they sold Grady was so that David Moyes can reinvest, in those areas of concern. And I think the fans have sort of said they're looking at the fullback positions and maybe even an extra centre half. Where would you sort of if you were in David Moyes' shoes, where would you be prioritising right now?
To be honest, I think we need 3 defenders. I think we need 2 centre backs and a left back. I think we get away with right back, in my opinion. And that's no disrespect for the guys that are there. But, you're the manager of the team. You live and die by the results. And until we can stop crosses going in and defend crosses better and defend a little bit higher up the pitch with a bit of confidence, balls that going behind don't frighten us because we've got a bit of pace. That would be my wish list. I mean, I don't think we're going to get that because to get 3 quality defenders is going to cost you, 150 million probably if you're going to go with the very, very best. And we're not going to do that. So we're going to have to rely on players that we've watched, the clubs have watched over the months, and take a punt on someone.
Maybe even
that's what we do.
And of course we know that David Sullivan likes a punt in the South American market, or even a couple of loans at this time of year. So perhaps there as well, maybe from one of the bigger clubs. Yeah,
certainly. As long as you know what you're getting, and obviously the manager has a say in that, because I think that's important. That he's in the loop that buys these players. Obviously, David is the money man, and it's yes or no financially. I understand that. But the manager's got to buy into it as well. And all intents and purposes, I think he does, as I see it. The people he's got around him, he's got Alan Irvine, who I know very well. He's a very good coach. Paul Nevin, who I know well from his days around the different clubs he's been at, Brighton, Fulham and so on. And obviously got Nobby back there, Kevin Nolan and Piercy. They're not going to let players stroll around and not do their bit. And and I think the spirit is there, but we're making those errors, and as soon as we concede that first goal, you think, how are we going to get this one back? Because we don't look like we're going to score. No, so it's tough.
Heads go down a bit as well, don't they? I think
they do, and as much as it's that here we go again feeling, and but the staff he's got there, I think that they'll rally the troops. There's no 2 ways about that. No, they're all good men, all good people, all football people. And they've made mistakes in the past with players they've bought, have not been able to rely on, and have paid top premium for them. And once they're out of favour, it's hard to shift those players. And you can't just keep throwing money at it because it's got to come from somewhere.
Sure.
So obviously, going back to Grady again, that was probably the main reason we've had to sell him, to sort of generate some decent amount of money to help the team in the long term.
If David Moyes doesn't get the backing that he's looking for in the next few weeks, we know the window's open. I think it's till mid-October, isn't it, domestically? The transfer window remains open till. But do you think there's any possibility that if that money isn't reinvested in the squad, that Moyes might just say, well, enough's enough and walk?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he will. I'm sure the money will be invested in the team. I've got no reason to suggest or doubt that they won't reinvest that money. I'm 100% sure they will, if the right people are available. And that's the key. There's no good buying players just for the sake of spending the money. They've got to be the right players that can come in and do a better job than the players that are already there.
Yeah.
No good just filling a squad. We've always said, is he better than what we got? That was always the mantra. Is he better than what we got? If he's not better than what we got, what's the point in what we need him for?
Sure, don't bother, yeah.
Why bother? So that would be, for me, the only reason they wouldn't spend it is because they can't get anybody, or they're not available, players that are better than what they've got. So, and then I think, we'll be like last year. It'll be a tough winter for us.
Yeah, well, as I said, we've got a very tough run of fixtures coming up, so we hope we can pull out a couple of wins from those unexpectedly. But just one other thing I wanted to ask you on, Tony, before we wrap up. There's been a lot of rumours, especially in the last 24 hours, about a potential takeover.
Yeah, I saw that on Talk Sport this morning. Yeah,
an American consortium are believed to have, put in a kind of initial bid for the club. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, Sullivan and Gold, for all their faults, and according to the fans, there are many of those. They are English owners, English people who know the club. Do you have any concerns about the club being placed in foreign ownership? Again, I know we've had it before, of course, a few years ago, but would you worry about that?
I think you've got to look at it very carefully. And it's the old saying, isn't it? Just be careful what you wish for. Now, because I think the owners are genuinely West Ham people. I think they want the club to do well. There's no question about that. They want the club to do well, and they're trying their damnedest to get the right players and which will transfer to results on the pitch. But like anything, if the right money come along, and big money come along, then they'd have to think long and hard about it. I'd have no issue about whether it was foreign or not foreign, in my opinion.
Yeah.
As long as they were going to, if you like, take the club, with the old saying, to the next level. What is the next level for West Ham? I suppose make sure that we're mid-table, pushing for the top 6 every year at the moment, and then progress it from there. And that's obviously, I'm sure the two Davids want. A good mid-table position every year, pushing for a top 6 position, and I'm sure that that's what they're trying to do. So, unless someone's going to come in and throw a cash load of money at it, and do a Chelsea in terms of, or do a Man City, which they're the two big extremes in terms of throwing money at it. I don't see where the advantage would be, to be honest, unless they were super rich billionaires that were going to come in and throw money at it like a hobby, if you like.
Yeah.
But certainly, just be careful what you wish for. Just be careful what you wish for. And the guys that are in charge now, the board that are in charge now, have stabilised the club financially. The club were in a terrible mess 10 years ago when they come in. They stabilised the club financially, and now for forever how many years of their 10-year tenure, we've been a Premier League team. And obviously, the longer you're in the Premier League, you can accumulate funds, and it can fund player sales, it can fund infrastructure, etc., etc. And I think they've done that. They get criticised for the move to the London Stadium. I think it was a difficult thing not to take up, to be honest. It was there. I think the only criticism I would have, it isn't custom made as a football stadium, and the fans still seem to be a little bit too far away from the action.
Yeah.
So, but Upton Park was unique, wasn't it? And we couldn't stay there forever.
Well, no, I think that's the point. I think that a lot of supporters weren't against moving. It's more the fact, as you say there, it's the manner in which it's been done. It's the fact that the promises that were made, and of course you can't ever make promises about where a team is going to finish in the league. It's it's always. I mean, since we moved, we've seen clubs like Wolves come in and have an extraordinary amount of cash thrown at them, and they're now challenging. Sheffield United have come up and done a wonderful job. So it's always difficult. But I think that's the real issue, isn't it, Tony? That people are kind of not averse to the move, but just didn't like the way it's done. And the fact it doesn't feel like a football stadium. And I guess, as you rightly point out also there, the fact that we moved from the bowling ground at Upton Park, which was such a tight stadium where before we moved the pitch away from the chicken run, opposition players always used to say, you could almost feel the fans breathing down your neck. And it's such a difference, isn't it? That's the issue. Yeah,
well, obviously West Ham, for the most part, it was a fortress in terms of teams didn't like to come and play there. We didn't win every game there, obviously, but I remember the last home with the Man United at home. That summed it up for me. That game 3-2, and the crowd were, fantastic atmosphere. it lifted the team, and from 2-1 down 1-3-2 against, you know, a top team like Man United, and that summed up the Upton Park in a nutshell. That game really,
Yeah.
And that's been very, very hard to recreate at the London Stadium for all the, you know, the doubling of the fans, 50, 60,000. So, you know, it's still a job in progress, I think, you know, even after all these years, it's still a job in progress. And hopefully, he says with his fingers crossed, we get it right.
Well, yeah, let's hope so, because we're there for about another 96 years. So
yeah, I think so. I think it'll see me out. Yeah,
I think it might see all of us out. But what we spoke about the clubs that have had an awful lot of money thrown at them, and also talking about the players that you brought through. And one player that's kind of linked with both of those is Frank Lampard Jr. I think I remember you saying when we spoke all those years ago about how he was the most dedicated trainer you'd ever seen. He used to stay behind after the other players had wrapped up and would just continue training. But what are your thoughts on him as a manager now? Do you think he's got what it takes to be a success? I mean, it must be difficult. It's not, you know, he's not sort of cutting his teeth at a lower league club. He's gone right in at the top, and he's you know, he's having to manage some of the biggest egos and best players in the world.
I mean, obviously, Frank is who he is, you know, dedicated, intelligent, got a real desire for the game. And I think he'll take that into management. You know, I went and visited him when he was up at Derby. Well, I spent a day with him up at the training ground, and when they were sort of challenging for promotion and the playoffs, etc. And no, he was really, really enjoying it. He said, I'm really enjoying it. It's different. He said, the buck stops with me now, and so on. But, you know, he was relishing it. And he's obviously got the opportunity at Chelsea. Some say it's too early for him, but if you get offered that job, you can't turn it down. It don't come along too often. So, and I think he's embraced it. I mean, he's had a good first season, quite unexpectedly. He's had a good first season. Got into the Champions League position. They've invested in the team this summer, and I think this season will be a big season for him, big test for him, because expectations are a little bit higher now. But he'll relish the challenge. He'll relish the challenge, and you know, he'll see it for what it is, and I'm sure he'll make a big success of it.
I guess to sort of complete our little chat and go full circle, coming back to where we started, does it make you feel old when you see Frank Lampard, a player you've had since he was, you know, knee high to a grasshopper and all that, managing now in the Premier League? Yeah,
tell me about it. Yeah, going back to my 70th birthday again, aren't we? Yeah, no, certainly it's
coming, you know, completing the circle.
Obviously, there's, you know, so many. I've got Grant McCann, who's manager of Hull City. Yep. You know, Grant, you know, who's come over from Ireland. He was a very, very good youth player. Got into the first team. Didn't play many games, but good lad, really good lad, and had a decent career after leaving West Ham. Is now manager of Hull City, and you know, you look at them, and you obviously look at Frank, and obviously there's one or two others around, and you makes you think, well, I've been in this game a bloody long time, really, and to see all those, it goes full circle. No, but it's nice to see that you've played some part in their development. Yeah.
Tony, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sparing us to chat this afternoon. We wish you the best of luck with your work with the Premier League, and who knows, maybe we'll join up again in another 10 years for a catch up, just to see what's going on. You never know. Okay, thanks, Graeme. Up the hammers. Yeah. Come on, you guys. Thank you. Up the hammers. Yeah. Cheers, Tony. Cheers, Graeme. Bye.